Welcome to Lead to Succeed, a podcast where you hear first-hand leadership stories, tips and hacks to enhance your career and life. Lead to Succeed is brought to you by Zahi Abdin and Usama Al-Musa.
Usama, welcome.
Hello, Zahi. Great to see you again.
Good to see you. So we have our second half of our interview later on with Greg and Mike from Solve Next about innovation. But I've been seeing some posts on social media. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I'm suffering. I'm suffering. Yeah, it's about self-care, especially with COVID-19 and to work remotely. I developed some pain. It has to do with mismanaging the mouse of my computer and the keyboard and the message here. Please take care of yourself. See what is the right position for you. See how do you do to protect your back and neck, and be always blessed.
So, I mean, last time we talked about Olympic athletes, and that's your Olympics, is coaching and training and stuff. So that's what's causing some pain. So yes, the message here is take care of yourself, whatever way you can find, walking, exercising, stretching, yoga, meditation, whatever works out for you. Anyways, so are you ready for the interviews?
Yes, we go for it.
Let's do that.
Thank
See you.
Bye. See you.
You opened my appetite for many questions and notes. And being a coach dealing with executives, and I see how much someone might believe in his or her success along the years, then let's spice it up and see into the behaviors and different behaviors. How do behavior impact the look into innovation? The organizations I deal with and leaders, I see much of polarity. It's more into like there is a wave with innovation and there is another wave that is like against. Yeah. So those who are with established methodologies, established ways of doing it will look like as if they are facing, trying to defend their position in front of a wave that's called innovation, which is gonna to take over. So here, how do you think of previous successes, the behavioral elements of people, the mental models as well, and how we think? I know in your book as well, you focus into how our brains conspire against us and how my brain might block me from being that receptive. Yeah. So then how do you think of this, and what's your convincing argument to leaders and organization of how can they benefit from both? So the integration of innovation will be more smooth than of just like standing in front of it. Thank you.
I think COVID's provided this for us, actually. There's a phrase that I use that is true for now. So, what you've done is you've built success, right? And you've got this thing where you status quo, I built something, I'm now operating it, and it's great, right? Because, and your assumption is that that's going to go forever. The context that you're in is going to preserve and it's going to stay. And what was true became not true. So, I had a very successful restaurant because the assumption was that people would come to it and they would eat every night and it's great. The context around you changes. And what was true, there's no doubt people would go to restaurants every night and your food is brilliant and very tasty and I want to come for it. The context changed and it was no longer true for now. What was true is no longer true. So that happens all the time. That happens in science where we make a discovery, everybody thinks it's right. Somebody comes along and goes, whoa, check this out. it's that what we thought was true is not true. We're continually learning. The risk of just sticking with what you've got is to deny that fact that, we can have universal truths, but they just keep changing. I think, you can get on a plane and travel, we can get on a plane and travel to Saudi or the Middle East, and totally true until it wasn't, right until that moment when it wasn't true. So it's like, what do we do? And it's like, whatever you're doing, that something in that context around you is going to change. And it's not saying that you were wrong or you had a bad idea or the thing is stupid. The context just changed. What was true is transient. And just being open to that just saying, and that kind of almost paranoia that what you've got is not going to be there anymore. And in terms of innovation, you've got to do, we say there's like 4 parts of this that you've got to do. One is to get really good at getting that thing to market. So that's the traditional thing we view as an innovator. Has a good idea, gets it to market. If you're good at that, you get there faster, right? And you're more successful. That's good. Another part of innovation is, how do I optimize what I'm doing? So I'm on this path. How do I get better? That's where I'm concentrating on. How do I improve my margins all the time? And you should always be doing that, right? Trying to maximize the use of all my capital to get the best returns or best impact. And then you've got the one where we know that things not going to last forever. There's going to be an inflection point. There's always an inflection point, and it starts going down. So innovation on that is, how do I keep the thing alive for the longest, right? It's kind of, we always refer to, say, the 2 examples I use are like Netflix. Netflix over here started as mailing DVDs to your house. You watch DVDs. They got out of that business a long time ago, and they went to streaming, except they still mail loads of DVDs out and make massive amounts of profit on it. They still do it. So that would be on how do we maximize the value on something that's past this inflection point. Nobody's going to tell you the DVDs are the future. They're just not. That's just not, patently not true. It was like, what a great business model until it wasn't. The context changed. The other one, for instance, would be, we work with the United States Air Force. They have an airframe, a plane that they use for something. They could go and build a new one, but that would cost billions and billions of dollars. Innovation that for them is, how do we keep that thing that we have going for as long as we possibly can? How do we improve it? How do we, maintain it? What can we add new to it that will keep it going? And that's innovation too. So it's kind of viewing it on all these different horizons, but just being aware that you're gonna hit an inflection point.
I think that sense of the context change is really important. And come back to that. It's like everybody can sort of recognize that the context does change. And I think for us, the 4 of us, that context has largely been driven. The biggest context changes have largely been driven by technology. They're largely by technology, but we're starting to see even now some other more significant social context changes, right? Certainly within the U.S., the racial justice movement is a big one. Climate is, significant and affecting us all. Just thinking about what's happened in Germany as of late. Mike is living in a place in the Pacific Northwest where the temperatures have been extreme. He's had hotter weather than you have. Something's wrong, right? In that situation. So I think that we're going to see all kinds of contextual shifts that are going to necessitate innovation. I think there's another aspect to it, Osama, which is like I brought this diagram back up into the background because the predictable path is that part of our organization that's operating today and could be operating quite successfully, right? We could have an organization that's actually doing really very well. And we can kind of guess what it was like yesterday, what it's going to be like today, what it's going to be like tomorrow. And that's because of the strengths and the capabilities that we have and that we built up and that successful leadership that you've identified. Now, a responsible innovation business, company thinking about responsible innovation would say, that's great. We love how things are going. However, we ought to be exploring what's next. We ought to be having some part of our organization inventing the next thing. There's an old Michael Porter quote, which is, put yourself out of business before somebody else does, right? So we want to make sure that some part of our business is actually exploring what's next. And then, as Mike said, what's not shown on this diagram is the downward sloping piece, and that's that inflection point that's coming and out of our control. But we could actually be monitoring and be prepared for that. So that shape that Mike was talking about is kind of this trapezoid. We've got some part that we want to make it as steep as we can, that we get to that next thing as quickly as we can. We want to take the predictable path and extend it as far as we can. We want to exploit and extract as much value as we can out of that. And when there is an inflection point, we want to lessen that slope so that we get full value out of it. So there's this interesting way of manipulating those trapezoids. Now, your successful leaders have a role to play in every piece of that. They've got a role to play in the operation of the normal business, the everyday current state of the business. They've got a role to play in terms of sponsoring and leading and providing executive guidance over this exploration and over that inflection point. So I think there's recognizing that, hey, what's made you successful is actually important to our future. And when we do invent what's next, somebody needs to lead that and operate it successfully as well. So let's make sure that we're going to take everything that you built. We're going to have a team that we set out to go do this exploration, invent this next thing. You're going to come and operate that too, because those people that are good at inventing the next thing, they're horrible at operating things usually, right? So it's like recognizing the value that all the different people, those you talked about those. They're right now they see themselves in opposition as opposed to in cooperation and collaboration, right? And they're not in opposition. They're only in opposition because, I'm going to come back to this, they're in opposition because people don't have a clear set of frameworks for envisioning what is this thing we're building. And it's this repeating cycle, these layers of, we've got a predictable path. That's great. That thing we're running, we're going to get all the value out of it. We're going to build this next thing. We're going to operate that. We're going to build the next thing. We're going to operate that. We're going to build. You ought to be in that pattern of invent, operate, invent, operate, invent, operate, right?
And exit.
And exit. Yes, those are and exit and get and maximize the value of the thing as we exit.
Yeah, this brings me to also think of the balance. Call me the man of balance, if any. Now it's just like I'm thinking of it, just sharing what's in mind, and you tell me if that is the case. Anything of overdoing in terms of innovation? I mean, is this something to be worried about, that an organization or a leader went stuck into just going beyond the decent level of innovation? And what are the warning signs if this happens? How to just switch it and say, oh, now you need to press brake and just slow down. Yeah, you want beyond just that decent level. Thank you.
Yeah, I think balance is correct. I think that's the right word. We talk about portfolio management. So the idea that you're actually, balance. We have 4 portfolios of innovation that you should look at. One is renewal. That's that kind of what do we do next? How do we reinvent ourselves? We have a portfolio of growth. We have a portfolio of optimization and a portfolio of maximization, which is the stuff we're going to get out of. So from a strategic point of view, you want to look and say, I have 4 portfolios. What returns do I expect from each portfolio? How am I going to measure it? And at a very high level, that is a very high executive function. We're going to sit down together. We're not going to say how those portfolios work, but we're going to say, what is the balance that we expect for returns from those portfolios? So you could have a company that is very focused on, we need to renew. We have to put money in there, otherwise we're doomed. Or we're a high growth company, so therefore we expect to see a lot of return on the growth portfolio of activities. and to be able to sort of sit there and measure that to get that balance that you want. So, if you're doing financial planning, for instance, the balance you'd want to see from your portfolios at 20 is different from 40 and different from 60. So it said, where are we? What returns do we want to see? What balance should we see? So you should absolutely put that portfolio there. It's just like, if you were 60 years old and you said, I'm going to put all my money in Bitcoin, you'd be like, you're insane. That's high fluctuation. You could lose all your money tomorrow. You want to put it in bonds, or you want to put it in fixed income. You want to do something. So you want to have that kind of view of what's the balance I want to see. So it's like, look, if you want to put a small percentage of your investment into Bitcoin at 60, go for it, but be aware that it's high risk. So I think you do that sort of balance at that macro level. And then within each portfolio, you'd want to have different goals and strategies and balance within that too. So, you want to make sure, we talked about this before we started recording, that idea of uncertainty. So you've got different degrees of uncertainty within each of those portfolios too, and you'd want to have different options. You want to have different spread based on problems that you're seeing within each portfolio too. So depending on the size of your organization, you may have portfolio managers within that, say, as you would a financial company, just say, manage that portfolio. Here's the returns I expect to see. Manage it, please, for me. And within that portfolio, you're going to have different strategies of how you're going to want to do it. And some projects are going to span portfolio. So you need that executive view to see what's happening across your whole organization. That has a embedded presumption that leaders know what's going on in their organization. And that, again, our experience is, this goes back to it's a poorly run process. People don't know what projects are going on at all. They don't know why they're going on, how much is being spent on it, what the expected return on it, what is the pain, what are the key assumptions that are still left to answer on that project. They have no idea. We have clients, big clients that billions and billions of dollars can tell you geographically where a project is, but nothing more on it. They're like, oh, it's in Chicago. You're like, great. Well, I don't understand what that is. And, the other thing that you'll see happening for balance is, Greg's put the picture up there. And we've all witnessed this, what we call pet ducks, which is an executive gets excited about something, and that's their executive project. It's called a pet duck. And, it's that a pet duck makes no sense. Why have you got a pet duck? It just makes noise, it makes a mess, and it eats your resources. And everyone's afraid to mention the pet duck, that it doesn't make sense, and nobody's going to kill it.
Anything about the duck.
Nobody mentioned the duck. And then you've got the other one, which is zombie projects, which is projects that just nobody can kill because nobody knows why they're there anymore, and they just keep going, and that happens. So it's that balance. If you've got to have balance, you have to have visibility. You've got to know what's there in order to balance it. And so few organizations have that, an awareness of their portfolio. What's in my portfolio? If you did this for your investments, if you hired someone to manage your investment fund for your retirement and they had no idea what stocks or shares you had or bonds, you'd be like, what are you doing? That's crazy. And then they're like, hey, I got a hot top. I just saw this on the news this morning. I'm going to put all our money in this. You're like, what are you doing? That's madness. That's what people do with innovation. Exactly. They have no idea what's going on in their organizations. They don't have visibility. If they don't have that, I don't know what they're making decisions based on. They don't know what to start, what to stop, what to speed up. And when something like COVID comes along, if you don't have that visibility, you just don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do.
We have a set of filtering questions that we introduce to our clients. The first question is there strategic fit? So is there strategic fit says, and this somewhat gets to your question about, are we, can people go kind of crazy with this? Can they get too extreme in one direction or another? So is there strategic fit is bringing it back to, should we take this thing on? Does it actually align with a set of goals and a set of strategies that we've identified? And as Mike has said, those tend to align with these 4 different opportunity horizons that he illuminated for us. The next question is there portfolio fit? And so Mike just elaborated on that notion. And we've had these conversations with people like, why are you talking about portfolio management? Isn't that financial services? And it's like, yes, that is financial services. And financial services are designed to protect and create capital, which is the same idea of why we're engaging in innovation. And just to reiterate, when we talk about capital, we're not just talking about financial capital. We're also talking about your human capital, the people or talent in your organization. We're talking about your intellectual capital. So, the ideas and processes and things that are unique to your organization. We're talking about your social capital. That's what kind of capital you're creating for society at large. We're talking about your political capital. We're talking about your reputational capital. We're talking about all of those forms of capital. We have a client that is, they're a weird company. We have a lot of funny, interesting companies, but they make over 25 million electronic parts a day. 25 million electronic components a day. Some of them sell for $3,500 each, and some of them sell for $1,000 for $1, right? So they range in their value, but none of them are extraordinarily expensive. They have a really interesting business in that they work with other tech companies, and they sit down with the engineering team. And they say, okay, you're building this thing. We can recommend for you component parts that you could put into your product that would bring the overall cost of your product down without affecting performance. So they actually typically those are like proven older technologies where the engineers in these tech companies always want the state of the art, most recent, most current everything. And it's like, yeah, you don't need most recent everything for this thing to perform. And you could actually take a significant cost out. So their innovation is actually happening in this portfolio around optimizing performance. And they're maximizing they're actually decreasing the slope of some technologies that are eventually going to become obsolete, but they're good enough for now. And so we're going to keep using those. So when we look at their portfolio, their optimized portfolio and their maximized portfolio is where we should see the majority of their effort. They're not doing a lot of in the renewal portfolio and sort of like transformative technologies that'll completely change. Like, don't worry about AR and AI. And you don't need to have augmented reality and AI stuff. Now, having some technology that maybe somebody could plug into an AR or AI that's going to be older technology that'll bring the cost down, yes, but they don't need to be inventing that. So their portfolio should not have they shouldn't have a lot in their renewal, and even in their grow portfolio, which is new products that could help them reach new markets. They don't need to do a lot there. So again, understanding sort of what are we doing as a business? What are our core competencies? What are our real strengths? Where do we create value? That informs where you should be focusing your innovation efforts.
Thank you. And thank you, Greg, for keeping us entertained by your backgrounds. Nice.
I love them. Yeah.
We needed those. We've talked a lot about organizations and companies. I want to bring it down to leaders. How can leaders use innovation to better themselves, to grow as individuals, and to help those around them grow and also get better?
Great question. I think part of innovation is that curiosity of it comes back to why we started asking good questions, asking great questions, and being really good at it. So often, leaders are judged on whether they have the right answers. People look to them for answers. I think that's the wrong view. I think people should look to great leaders for great questions and enable people to do that. So if you're really good at innovation, you're actually really good at asking questions. The how might we's, what ifs, why, asking those questions and asking that of your people. Even when we say, the what we call the Super Seven, they're filtering questions. It's, is there strategic fit? I'm asking a question, and what I'm asking for is data to help me learn to answer that question. And that's the appeal. It's like, to your team, it's just like, I'm not the guy with all the answers or the woman with all the answers. I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, and you might find that really annoying, because it's like, don't come to me for great, it's like, literally never go to Zahir for an answer. All he ever does is ask you questions. And it's like, that's what you want. It's, the great leaders that I've kind of worked with over this time, is you'll see them, they're not up front, putting their point of view. They're standing back, they're listening a lot. And then they come in with a question, and you're like, wow, that was a great question. And just really, almost like knock you down with that question. It's like, that is so insightful that you're asking that question. And so I think this gives people the impetus to learn how to ask questions, learn to ask the tough questions, and seek the answers to them. Because what you accept is, in innovation, you've got a whole bunch of unknowns, you've got a whole bunch of uncertainties, there's a whole bunch of assumptions. And it's like, how do we, as leaders, be comfortable not knowing? Because that's very uncomfortable. If you're not knowing, it's just like, look, we're in uncertainty. It's like, I don't know is a great answer, because what it means is, I'm not going to try and give you some fluffy fact that is not true. I'm not going to assert something that's not known as certainty, because that's what's rewarded, being certainty, knowing the answers, and just being able to do that process in a very humble way. Don't put a premium on being right. Put a premium on learning. What did you learn? Wow, we didn't expect that. That's enabling us to go in that other direction. That's the Silicon Valley pivot. It's, a pivot is simply, we thought something was true, it wasn't, so we're going to go in a different direction. And that's not failure. Failure would be, failing fast. That's not failing fast. That's like, failing fast would be, we're just going to keep going, even though we know we shouldn't, but we're going to do it quickly. And it's like, that's a terrible idea. So I think that from a leadership perspective, that humility, not putting a premium on being right, asking great questions, empowering your team to find the answers to those. And again, empowering is a funny word that gets used a lot, but it's like giving people permission and responsibility to find data to answer those questions, for me as a leader, and putting that down on them. G?
Yeah, I brought this image up. This is actually the CEO of one of our clients' companies, and she came to us. They're actually in an industry that requires quite a bit of creativity. They do event production, large scale event production. I mean, one of their clients convenes 18,000 salespeople from around the world for an event every year for training and development and growth. And she approached us to say, we right now, even though our whole business it's a combination of creativity and execution. She realized that the entire organization wasn't being engaged in that work, that they weren't. And as a CEO, what she realized is, every month I'm paying rent on the creative potential of my people, but I'm not creating the opportunity for us to realize the full potential of that creativity, right? So if you think every single person has the ability to be innovative in some way, to problem solve in new ways, to disrupt the status quo, whether that's, I'm just going to change a small process of how we enter data into a system, or I'm going to rethink, the entire set of offerings that we have for the marketplace. She realized that they weren't realizing the full potential of their workforce, and she. So she engaged with us, and we weren't the only thing that she was doing. She engaged with us, and she was doing a lot of things across her organization to say, how do we actually equip our people to do this work? And equipping your people is creating and a shared common language for how do we talk about this, establishing a set of frameworks for how do we actually organize our thinking and our action against it, providing tools that will support people in doing the work, and actually giving them the opportunity to practice and acquire the skills that are necessary. And so, that's the obligation. That's a decision that only leaders can take. If you see in an organization that's happening from the bottom up, we have staff members, we have team members who are really excited and really curious and are on their own. They're going out and they're finding these opportunities. They're educating themselves. They're getting trained. They're building this capability. That's great, but it's not ultimately going to work, because it will hit the management level, and the management level will say, that's nice, but we don't need that right now. Just get back to work. If executives don't understand it and aren't sponsoring it, it's not going to be sustainable. And the information that's required for the executives to make good decisions, if we get back to that portfolio conversation, it won't be flowing up. It'll hit that management level. It won't find its way up for that decision making. So it has to happen at all three layers of an organization: the leadership level, the management level, and the staff or practitioner level. But it's especially critical at that executive level. And we think leadership exists at all three levels. Right? Everybody can lead. Everybody can take on that role within their realm, within the part of the organization that they operate in.
While we conclude in the coming 2-3 minutes, let's quote from your questions. You asked one question: what's next? And here it's for you. What's next for you in terms of what comes in your heart, head, or hands? So what's next for you, Greg? What's next for you, Mike?
Mike?
A couple of things for us. In terms of the heart, I think that the things that have attracted me to this work remain true and constant, which is, a belief in the ingenuity of human beings to create a better world. Right. So in my heart, I think that we have the ability to do that, and we all have the creative mind that would allow us to imagine a better future and then to find a way to build that. So that's in my heart. So the thing that sort of motivates and inspires me and keeps me going is that this work can make a real difference. In my head, it really is, what we talked about in terms of this systematic approach to this. It's really continuing to develop the useful frameworks that help organize people's way that they think about a problem, the way that they act on those problems. Every framework we build is designed to unlock that creativity and give it a way forward, give it a way to move forward and to have impact, to make a difference. It's not enough. I went to art school where there were fine artists. There are people who are painting and doing things. I think that's fantastic. I enjoy fine art, but the impact that has on us is very, it's very interior, right? It's not this sort of exterior thing where you can see the difference that it makes in the world. So I think the thing where my head is and in Mike, I found a fantastic business partner and friend to do this work with. I think we both really enjoy sort of, all right, what's the next tool we're going to build? What's the next thing we're going to create that's going to make a difference for people? We're doing a lot of work right now with our clients in this, teaching them something called the Leaders of Next, which is how do we lay the foundation for executives and managers to actually effectively lead what's next in their organization. What are the fundamental concepts that they need to understand and the practical skills that they need to have to do that work? How do they create innovation playbooks that are living documents that they're constantly operating and updating and acting on? So Someone, to your point, like the context can change, so the goals need to change. That's a living thing. It's like, hey, we're not going to wait till the next planning cycle because the context changed now, right? The world is not aligned to our planning cycle. Our planning cycle is aligned to the world. So how do we update those playbooks and make sure that the energy and the activity of the organization is really going towards that? So currently the work that we're doing really is sort of concentrated on that. Getting executives, getting managers to understand what it looks like to build a system, giving them a playbook for that, and then coaching them through that process, actually spending time with them and helping them build and implement those systems effectively. So that's the, what's occupying us these days, as we also all get over the COVID hangover. It's like,
depends where we are in the world.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I think my heart is, I'm still driven by the frustration that we haven't fixed this, right? It's we work with people who've been doing this longer than we have, and for some reason, we go into these organizations, we still see the same problems. They're pervasive. I think, it holds us back. You start talking about, we work often in the business space about products and services, but you get this into broader things of government and society, and it's exactly the same. It's often even worse because they're not measuring capital, they're not looking at impact. The culture and the biology, or the culture certainly kicks in even harder when you get into that space. So I think that the heart there is like, the work's not done. It's you get there and you realize it's bigger, it's harder, it's more pervasive. You understand the problem more, from the outside. When you first get into this, like, this is easy, I'll fix it. And then you start working out how big the problem is. You're like, this is really hard. And then when you start getting the kind of the mastery of what needs to be done about it, is trying to get people along. So I think that drive of trying to make things better for society, and then even just that people like me that were in organizations that are frustrated, how do we help them, or how do we help that kind of leader that is in the 94% that's cynical about innovation? And it's like, you're right, you should be here, let's help you. I think that's there. And then I think that the head and hand, as Greg said, is like, how do we make those tools, how do we make that available to people? We're working on making our software kind of a forever free version, going back to Greg's original point of how do we help underserved innovation markets. And that can be within organizations, that can be within different regions. We're working closely in South America right now. We have a partner, Marwan, with Transform in Saudi Arabia. How do we get this into Arabic? Right. I know that one of the questions I don't think we got to is like, how does this work in the Middle East? I'm really excited about the Middle East because just demographically, it's like we're all old guys, and but you look at the demographics of the Middle East, like the age of that population, how much can change, like just the excitement of that. I think that that's a tremendous opportunity to get tools in these young people's hands from like old gray head wisdom from people like us. It's like how that opportunity is fantastic. I think that excites me a lot. It's a lot of it's the same in South America, where it's these young populations that are growing. We do sub-Saharan Africa. It's the same thing that we're seeing there. That it's tremendously exciting. So to be able to build tools in these markets that can't necessarily afford to get expensive consultants to show up and tell them this, it's like, how do we do that? That's that gets me going. That stokes me up.
Greg, Mike, we're very much really thankful and grateful for you both. It was very impressive, the richness and sharing your very personal experiences. We felt great. So thanks, Greg, again. And thank you, Mike. To you, Zai, for a final word. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Having gone through your program a few months ago, I have to say what's impressed me the most is that you don't go into organizations and just build something and you walk away. You empower them to continue beyond that initial stage that when you go in the organizations. So empowerment is key. Empowerment for organization to innovate on their own is what you guys do, and we're absolutely looking forward to you guys expanding in the Middle East. As we said, Osama and I in Jordan, and we work in Saudi a lot. We work in the Gulf a lot, and we're looking forward to it. Last final thoughts: how can people get in touch with you if they need you? Of course, they can always. Our audience can reach out to us, and we can direct them to you. But how can they get to know more about you?
So our email addresses are easy. It's greg@solvenext.com or mike@solvenext.com. Those are we actually respond to email, so that's probably the easiest way. Mike has a very low social media profile, so you'll be hard pressed to find him. We're both on LinkedIn as well. So you could find us there. I'm mysteriously under Nikolai Gregory Galle on LinkedIn because that's my full name. But just email us directly. We'd be happy to correspond and have a conversation with folks. Yeah.
There's also a lot of free resources on our website where we have some ebooks there. We have the 18 drills that are in the book. You can access those. We also have innovation readiness assessment, which is very thorough. It takes about an hour to do, but it's going to give you how you score kind of your current state, and then it gives you kind of the boosters of the top things that you could do to improve your innovation readiness to go forward, and that's free. So, and what you'll see is how you benchmark against other people that have taken it. The scores tend to be fairly low. Don't feel bad about that. That's just the nature of that. There is no systematic approach, as you'll see. So yeah, just hit the website. There's a bunch of free stuff on there for you to download and read, and goes beyond what we've talked about here. Explains that map behind Greg more fully.
So, gentlemen, I know the time. I know we've gone about an hour and a half. I think we can easily go for another hour and a half. So, but hopefully we'll see you guys again. We'll host you probably some other time, and
anytime.
Get to know more, get in more in depth. Yeah. Thank you so much. Go for it.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, someday we hope to get over there and we can do this in person around a table when the world is better. So
yes, hopefully.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great.
And good luck. Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. Good to see you.
Osama, what a great interview. Innovation, what a wonderful topic. I think it came in a timely manner after, after a year and a half of pandemic. I think people do need some innovation.
This is true for now. And this is what I'm taking home with me. It's always true for now, and that was very interesting to see that the context. Yes, we used to do things in the past and used to be very successful. That's for sure. Yeah, it's true for just now, maybe for the past. But how about the future? Contexts are always changing. Dynamics are so speedy in the way it change. The rhythm, and that's why we need to keep an eye on what is needed to shift so we can cope up with the future dynamics.
So
how about you, Zay? What was
it's true for now. That's a highlight for you. Great. For me, I think that the quote has been said that curiosity is part of innovation. You have to be curious all the time as an organization, as individuals. And we do practice curiosity when we coach, right, Osama? So that was interesting for me. Keep curiosity on. Keep asking questions. I mean, that a lot. I have curiosity in my 5-year-old son. He always why, and it never stops. And that's curiosity. So that's how people learn, from curiosity, and that's how they innovate. So that's the highlight for me. And thank you so much. Great interview. And looking for many more to come.
Sure. Bless you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Lead to Succeed podcast. If you like this podcast, please remember to give us 5 stars ratings and share it with your family and friends. Also, please follow us on social media and send us your ideas, suggestions, or questions. You can find our contact information in the podcast description. This is Zahia and Usama, and until next time, make sure to remain authentic, keep learning, and enjoying life.